Great, so let's start with discussing biblical poetry. What makes biblical poetry different from all other kinds of Hebrew poetry? Poetry, biblical poetry, right, does not have rhyme, end rhyme for sure, and or a meter. So it's very different from later poetry. And so the question is, what makes poetry, biblical poetry, poetry? It's another things than what we're used to in poetry. What, Herb?
No, you do feel the poetry. You feel
you feel it, right? But
if you're a Torah reader, when you hit anu ve'er anu, you oh yeah, it has a meter. It definitely has a meter.
Well, it's not the meter as we know it, but it has features that sound melodic, or it's a play on words. It's all kind of stuff. So for instance, if you look at the first chapter of creation, which is basically a poem, according to many biblical scholars, and you have like the cadence of a refrain coming back, Vayomer Elohim and Vayar Elohim Kitob, Vayabdel, Vayer, Vayivoker. This is like the cadence that comes up. It's almost like every day is like a strophe, and these strophes have a structure. So let's say this is the schedule of the days of creation. You see here yellow on the left, day 1, below day 2, 3. So not only does it all end in Vahi Erev, Vahi Voker, it was evening and it was morning, day 1, and inside there are phrases that come back in a rhythmical almost way, but also day 1 is parallel to day 4. Let there be light in day 1. Let there be lights in the firmament. So those are parallel. But if you go to day 2 and 5, the next two, the same thing. It has actually day 2. It has the waters below and the waters above are separated, and day 5 there's a parallel. These waters are populated. So now you have the birds above on the sky that was created in day 2, and fish in the water below. So day 2 and 5 are also parallel, and day 3 and 6 too. The seas apart, you have dry land, and on so the dry land now has plants, and on day 6 there are animals, and there's finally humans. So now the earth that is created in day 3 is populated in day 6. So 1, 4, 2, 5, 3, 6 are all parallel, and with the grand finale on day 7, which is a structure which we might not initially see that if we're not used to biblical language as much as poetry, but at the same time, it's also not prose. There is, for sure, a prose you would just go straight and tell, but there are, it's really, it's different, right? And then, hold on, I thought I had, okay, here. Then, if you go to chapter 2, then you have chiasms, which means it's almost the end and the beginning correspond, and just before, after the beginning, and just before the end also correspond to each other.
Usually called in ABC.
ABCCBA, and this is actually a very involved one. So here, for instance, chiasms are there. We're going to see them. Now, here, for instance, God says to Cain, "Why are you angry? Why is your face fallen?" So this is a parallelism, and parallelism is one of the most recognizable things in biblical Hebrew. So if you say things twice in different ways, that is, let's say, that is a very typical thing of biblical Hebrew. So being angry is another way of saying your face is, you have a long face or something like that. So for instance, So angry, you have angry faces and your face fallen. It's like Mr. Bean a bit. All right, here. So if you look at the sounds, lam hara lach, it's very interesting. All three have the ismil ra. All three have the accent on the first syllable. So not lamma and hara, but lamma hara lach, which is, you hear the cadence, right? You would think lamma hara lach in modern Hebrew, or lecha. Lamma hara lecha. It also sounds a bit boring, but lamma hara lach, which is interesting. And then velamma nafelu fanecha. It's all the ahs, a lot of ah sound.
And then hello im tetiv se'et. Hello im tetiv se'et.
Yeah, that's next. And also nafelu fanecha. Very interesting. That is and naf and fan, which is the mirror. The mirror, they are mirrored letters, right?
Yes.
And in sounds. So it continues, right? Hallo im teitib se'et, ve'e im lo teitib, lapeta hatat robes. So surely if you do right, there's uplift. If you will not do right, sin crouches at the door. Now this is a type of parallelism, but you say the opposite, which is like a negative parallelism. So if you do the right thing, it's going to be good. If you don't do the right thing, it's going to be bad, right? So that is also a type of parallelism, but it's called contrast. And the rhythm is in the last three words. Hallo im teitib se'et, ve'im lo teitib robetz, but lapet hatat robetz. It's the last one is the finale of these words and therefore extended. It's urges toward you, but you can be its master. Ve'elecha teshukato, v'atat timshol bo. Right. So it wants to overcome you, but you can overcome it, which is also a contrast. And the rhythm is there. So this is one of the very clear examples in the beginning of Genesis of biblical poetry. Another one is in 9 with Noah. Whoever sheds the man of blood, by man shall his blood be shed. Now you can already see shed blood, man blood shed. So it says the same thing, but it says it in opposite order. For in God's image did he make man. And it sounds like almost like a drum. Shofech dam ha'adam ba'adam damoi shafech. Ki b'tzelem Elohim asa et ha'adam. So the Adam comes back at the beginning and in the end of these 4 lines at the end. And shofech, yishafech, really, really very, very powerful cadence, right?
Yes.
Right. Asa et ha-adam. So at the end, you see asa et ha-adam. 3 times ah in a rhythmic sentence. Now, here is a chiasm, which is from the Song of Devorah, which is in this case A, B, C, D, D, C, B, A. O Lord, when you came forth from Seir, advanced from the mountain of Edom, the earth trembled, the heavens dripped. So you see heaven and earth, which is also a parallelism. And now it comes back even in the mirror. The clouds dripped water, which the clouds correspond to heavens. The mountains quaked, which is parallel to the earth trembled. Before the Lord hymn of Sinai, before the Lord God of Israel. So Sinai is like the opposite of Edom. So those are the 2, how do you say, nemesis of each other, right?
Yes.
And Seir is a parallel with Edom because in the first A and B, you have Seir and Edom, which are the same thing, which is saying the same thing twice. He came from Seir and you advance from Edom. But that parallelism is then contrasted with Sinai and Israel in the end of the poem. Also, you have long sentences, short in the middle, longer at the end again.
Well,
So
but
it's
the-
really quite something.
But the Song of Devorah is clearly a poem.
Oh, it's a poem? Yeah,
a-
it's
a Roman
absolutely a
poem.
poem. Some
It's
people say it's the oldest Hebrew linguistically of the whole Bible, because I don't think there's any articles there. It seems that people think that articles in very old Hebrew, there was maybe no article. So you don't have the prefix ha for the in the whole poem.
But it's also written like bricks. It's written in
Yeah, but that's probably the scribes did that. They do that for every poetry, right?
yes.
But yeah, I don't know if that was always the case, but that's really, yeah. So you see that, right? So that is an interesting feature too in the scribes. The scribes have written poetry in bricks. You see that with the Shirat Hayam, the Song of the Sea, and you see it with Azinu, right? And you see it with the Song of the Vorah. Anything else where we see that? We see.
Could you just explain what you mean by that?
Oh yeah, I should get a visual of it. Oh, let me just show you an image. That's the easiest way to do it. Here I have a tikkun, which is basically where you can practice reading the Torah without having a scroll at hand, and the Torah doesn't have the vowels and the intonation signs. So, so here, this is a tikkun. Basically, it has here how it looks in a Torah, right? It just has the letters without vowels and intonations. And then if you can practice, but if you forgot, you can peek here, and then here is everything. It's the same. You say, hey, Ben, you're in the waiting room. That's interesting. You are in two places at the same time, just like God can be in different places. All right.
Simon, I'm sorry, I didn't understand anything of what you just said, because
Okay, I didn't show the bricks yet, but I'm
No.
saying, I'm just showing you a tikkun. A tikkun is a book to practice reading
I
Torah.
haven't seen that, yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, okay.
You know what a tikkun is? I showed you that. Did you get that? Okay.
Yeah.
So now I'm gonna look up this poem, and then you'll see the bricks. Okay, so let's say here is Az Yashir Moshe, which is then which is a poem, and it is written, see, like this. So with spaces, almost like bricklaying. So let me go here. This is
I see.
yeah. So you see
Yeah,
there's bricks on the side, and then in the middle on the side, and they call that bricks. Brick.
I see. And so that's the way the Song of Devorah is written?
Also, yeah,
Yes.
and Deuteronomy 32, which is the Song of Moses. It's called the Song of Moses. Why?
I had seen that. I didn't know why, where they make that spacing like
Yes.
that.
I think the Ten Commandments are similar. I'm not sure. No, not really. They just have a lot of
Yes.
hiatuses, but it's not really brick-wise. But yeah, okay, yeah. It continues here. Chiasm, parallelism, and contrast. Oh yeah, no, that's the same thing. I just explained this already. We'll continue. So we don't have a rhyme, and we don't have hardly consistent meter. And if there is a consistent meter, then it's probably just coincidence. But you have parallelism, contrast, pairing, so day and night, heaven and earth, morning and evening, etc. You have chiasms. Repetition of words are very significant often. Repetition of letters and sounds. So for instance, in Psalm 1, Ashrei ha'ish asher lo halach. That starts with Aleph Shin Resh. Asher ha'ish ashrei ha'ish asher. A lot of ash, and asher. Patterns of words and alphabetic patterns a lot, and also numerical patterns. So if you count words and letters, there's sometimes intricate things to be found. So
Also reverse alphabet.
also reverse sometimes, yeah. But in the Bible, I'm not sure. That's more post-biblical, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. That is Yeah, so Yanai has that sometimes. That's part of next week's class then. Turns out next week. So there's parts of the Bible are poetic. The book of Psalms, of course, is poetry. Song of Songs, we have Lamentations, Proverbs. A lot of the book of Job is, except for the beginning and the end, it's a type of poetry. We have the Song of Hannah,
Yes.
and that's probably also written as bricks. And a lot of the poets are poetic. That's why they're so hard to understand, because poetry is not straightforward stuff. I mean, last parasha, Haftarah, yesterday's Haftarah, very hard to understand. You have, and that's why, by the way, it's so easy for Muslims and Christians to say, "Oh, this predicts Jesus and Muhammad," because you can interpret them in so many ways. These words, you put in what you like. I'm sure that people in those days, because there's a lot of words that the prophets only use once, and we don't really know exactly for sure what it means. I'm sure that people in the days when these prophets lived had a bit of a better idea of what they meant. Now, Deuteronomy 32, I just mentioned it, Ha'azinu, also full of juicy stuff. Give ear, ye heavens, and I will speak. Let the earth hear the words of my mouth. Now, you see, I have colors, so you see it already. Give ear is parallel to the second line here.
Yes.
Heavens and earth. There is a contrast there. And I will speak is parallel to the words of my mouth. So this is totally a parallelism there. But in the parallelism, there's also a contrast, heaven and earth, or it's a completion, right? Right. Then my doctrine shall drip as rain, my speech shall distill as dew. We have doctrine and speech, teaching and speech, which is parallel. Rain and dew are on the same level. Drip and distill is probably also a parallel. And it continues, as drizzle upon the tender grass. So we have now rain, dew, and drizzle. And on the fourth line, and showers upon the herb, we have rain, dew, drizzle, and showers. 4 words for wetness, basically. Upon the tender grass and upon the herb. So grass and herb are also herb, I would say. Herb.
Simone,
Yeah.
one of the techniques used in visualization when you look at a painting is that they repeat things. They're not exactly the same, but they repeat. For instance, let's say they use a certain red in an area of the painting. They're going to repeat that red in another area.
Oh, yeah.
And the idea of repetition as being one of the principles of visualization is that it moves your eye along. Your eye doesn't stay in one place. And I get the feeling from what you did here with this wonderful presentation, absolutely wonderful, is that your thoughts move along. You know what I mean? By repeating the certain aspects, like the speech and words of my mouth,
Yeah.
you don't just stay with speak. You see?
Yeah.
You move along, your thought moves along.
Yeah, you
even
recognize it. Oh, I've heard this before in a different way. Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And it's wonderful. It's
What,
really,
what differentiates the Psalms, which are, always described as poetry, because they don't have a particularly rhyme or meter so much either. They're just written.
No, all these things, these features of Hebrew poetry that we're just discussing now, are all in the Psalms also, and we're going to see a few examples also, God willing. For I will proclaim the name of the Lord. Proclaim is like ascribe greatness. Maybe proclaim the name and ascribe greatness are the parallels, and the Lord and our God, of course, are 2 different appellations of the same entity, right? So. Yeah, so these are just illustrations, give here and ear. So these are basically repetitions of what I already said, drip, rain, drizzle, showers. Yeah, we explained this already. Okay. Here is Psalm 1, just your request, Enid, right here. So it's not Ashrei Ha'ish Asher. I already mentioned it. So that is like a sound. It's like an alliteration or whatever you call it. Blessed is the man. And who is this man who is blessed? Who doesn't walk in the advice of the wicked. He doesn't stand in the way of the sinners. He doesn't sit in the assembly of the mockers. Now, walking, standing, sitting, that's a progression. First, you're walking somewhere, you're just passing by. Just, let's say, a window, a shopping window, you walk by. Now you stop, you start looking at the item, or it's a pub, or it's a musician that you're walking by, now, or an artist. Now you're standing, you stop, so you're more involved. And then when you sit down, you're totally involved in what's happening. So there's a progression. So this is the slippery slope of the blessed man, that has a slippery slope that the blessed man is not going to step into. What is that walk? The advice of the wicked. So first is an advice, you can put that aside. Then the way of the sinners, then that would be the second step, the behavior of sinners. And then the assembly of mockers, finally you're part of them. You're in their assembly. It's another progression. It's like a parallel, but also progression. The wicked, the sinners, and the mockers is probably not so much progression, but they're similar. There's like 3 types of bad people, right? So it's a parallelism 3 times. Instead, in the Torah or in the law of the Lord is his delight, and on his Torah he meditates day and night. So there is a day and night is of course the pair, the very famous pair that we hear, that we come across so much, just like day and night, morning and evening, etc. Heaven and earth, those are one of these very often used pairs. And the Torah is a repetition. So there you see already very easily that this is a parallel, right? And so he's like a tree planted by streams of water, gives its fruit in its season, its leaf doesn't wither. So the fruit and the leaf are 2 aspects of the tree. Therefore, all he does prospers. And now there's a contrast with the last part, the tree, not so the wicked. So first we had the blessed man, now we have the wicked. Instead, they are like the chaff that the wind scatters. So the tree is planted, and a tree can produce fruit and leaves, shade. The chaff not. It's something you throw away. It's something that is left over. And it's not planted, it's scattered. So it's not stable. That's a big contrast, a contrast in parallelism. Therefore, the wicked will not stand. So it's not in judgment, nor the sinners. They have it again, wicked and sinners. In the assembly, we have the assembly again, as in verse 1. And then we have the way of the righteous and another way of the wicked. So if the righteous and the wicked are paralleled here, but it's the assembly and the way are parallels to verse 1, the way and the assembly of the mocker. So Psalm 1 is so intricate with so many levels connected of parallelisms and contrasts and parallel imagery, contrasting imagery in words, in sounds, and in everything. It's wonderful.
I just want to add one thing.
Yeah.
The tree that's planted by the streams of water is continuously receiving its nourishment. It doesn't, so that the fruit is always going to be there. It's not going to have a period in which there's a drought or anything like that. I mean, it's going to be constant. Whereas the wicked, they're always dried out. They're never going to get any nourishment whatsoever.
Right. They already used what's useful, is already taken out of it. And in the, so they have no roots.
That's right.
They're not rooted into solid, but, and this tree, exactly. And I failed to explain that, but normally grass it's a wet season, it grows, and then it dries out and it dies. But if you have by the stream of water, your roots go deep, and there's always water. So you're not dependent on, if you're a blessed man, if you're a righteous man, right? At the end, he's called the righteous, this person. Then you have a source of inspiration that is not based on the circumstances. It's like something continuous. If you continue values and whatever it is that nourish you and feed you, that the people who are wicked and sinners and mockers do not have. Yeah. Very
There's
good.
also a parallelism in Jeremiah where he uses exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
About translated by like a tree. The righteous man will be like a tree planted in waters. You know.
It's exactly the same one, right? And so, and there has to be a connection. So you wonder, did Jeremiah get it from the Psalms, or did the psalmists get it from Jeremiah? That's not 100% sure, right? Clear.
Well, Jeremiah does use various phrases throughout his work, throughout the Torah and various other books. He does take phrases when he has his message to the people. He
The
takes it
labor,
from the Torah.
the labor movement songs use all of these phrases, just like a tree that's planted.
Planted on the waterside, we shall not be moved. That's from God. Those are gospel themes.
Yeah.
Right. We
Yeah.
shall not.
We shall not be moved. Right.
You know, with all these messages, you can't help but think, what makes the world be the way it is today? Where we have hundreds and thousands of years of these messages, and yet the world doesn't get it.
Yeah, who studies the Psalms nowadays, right? Only
You
the
know?
elect few in this group.
No, but the idea that even though the wicked won't get any nourishment, they'll dry out and perish, they're not. They're getting nourishment from someplace.
Yeah, this is the,
You know?
yeah, true. This is the ideal situation, but there's other Psalms that deal with the conundrum that the
Why does the
that
wicked
the righteous are not so always so good off, and that the
right,
wicked, but the
prosper?
yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's right.
that's the theological problem. That's yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a
The
theological
theodicy.
problem, and so maybe we have to look at it from a different vantage point rather than what we're told to look at it as.
Yeah.
know?
This is the ideal world.
Yeah, this is ideal. The
Well,
ideal
there's
world when things would be clear.
You
When
know,
things would be clear and evident and direct consequence. Yeah. If this worked that way always, it would be a lot more righteous people, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't
Well
pay
said.
to be
the
evil.
Sufis say you can't judge a teacher by his students. I mean, you can't judge this teaching by the manifestation of people. This is a teaching, you
Yeah,
know.
this is like what you say
It's
to
a
a child.
teaching, but the message isn't getting across, though.
Well,
Yeah.
other messages, there's a lot of messages, you know, even before the internet, we were bombarded by a lot of messages.
It's what you say to a child. You have to apply yourself, because then you will be successful. And if you don't apply yourself, you'll be a failure. And that is something you tell them, but it's not always true, right? Some people who don't apply themselves have a lucky strike and they find their niche, and all of a sudden they become successful. And people who do apply themselves might not be successful, but this is the ideal that you, right?
I just want to add one thing. If you believe that first psalm is written by David,
Oh,
David is a killer. He's a he's a warrior.
Well, he's a racketeer.
But
he had a
whatever he
racket.
is, but he's telling you about how wonderful the world would be, you know, if we were all righteous, and yet he himself, he's a sinner. He goes to war. He fights. He kills people.
He's
Same with
human.
Solomon.
He's
can't
a
even kill-
person. He's a human. He's a human.
yeah,
He's
Things
using
are
that as an
nuanced.
excuse.
things are nuanced, they're complex.
He's a very
he's
successful
not-
warlord.
He's not a puppet.
Absolutely, that's exactly right. He's a successful warlord, but so he writes, this is written by King David anyway.
No, it's not. There's no indication that this was written by King David. No. This is I mean, it's clear that a lot of Psalms are written by different people. It even says it by the sons of Korach, by this, by that, by Asaph, right? So those were people who, temple
But those people,
functionaries.
it's written Mizmor Asaph. It tells you who wrote it. Lamed Seif Mizmor David.
Herb, the Torah is that way too, Herb. It's not only David, the Torah is that way too.
I
The
agree
Torah
with that.
talks about righteousness, and yet kill all of them.
That's correct.
Kill
I
the
agree.
women, the
I
children.
agree with you.
You know?
I say that all
Um,
the time. I say that all the
Stone
time.
the guy that picks up sticks.
I
Well,
say
listen,
that.
you say, Ben, you say this to Herb, you know it's a slam dunk. If you want to score, go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's all through it.
All right, let's go to Psalm
Very
60.
well said.
Let's go to Psalm 67, which is, if we take away Psalm 1, which is
The
the
earth is
introduction,
really protected. The earth is really protected to a lot of bad things out. The heavens are not a nice place,
Okay,
know?
I agree with all that. Go ahead.
you know, but the earth is protected from all of that, you know?
Yeah.
So there's something in that, in the message.
Okay, let's look at Psalm 67 here. We take away Psalm verse 1 because that is the introduction. And we are left with 2 through 8. If you would renumber them, as Christians have sometimes done, it would be 1 through 7. Now, 7 is a significant number. And then you see that 4 and 6, which is 2 from the beginning and 2 from the end, are exactly identical. Let the peoples praise you, O God, let all the peoples or the nations praise you. In that line 4 or 6, whatever you choose, they're the same anyway. There is clearly a very clear parallelism, but also if you see 4 and 6, which are from the same distance from the middle, you see there is a mirroring, right? Now let's look at the mirroring a little closer. The 2 and 8. May God be gracious to us and bless us. At the end, God will bless us. All the ends of the earth will revere him. The first starts with, may he be gracious and bless us. May he cause his face to shine towards us. That is definitely a hint towards the Kohen blessing. 3 and 7, that your way may be known on the earth, your salvation among the nations. 7, the earth has yielded its produce. God, our God, will bless us. So there is the earth twice. And in the middle, now every of these one has 2 lines, but the middle, exactly the middle, has 3 lines. And people have said, look, this looks exactly 7 lines parallel to each other. They mirror each other, and the middle one is bigger. It looks like a menorah. So 2 and 8 are each 7 words. Then you have 7 words, 6 words, 6 words, 11, 6, 6, 7, which is a chiasm in itself in terms of the count of words, right? So the ends are the same, the middle, these are the same, and the middle is longer. Just like here, the stem of the menorah is longer than the others. And so you can write it as a menorah. Here you have one of them. And now if people go deeper, if you count the words, if you count 7, 6, 6, 11, 6, 6, 7, which is 49, which is 7 times 7. So 7 times 7, the word 7 is very significant here. And then the first letters, if you count the letters, which is Aleph is 1, Lamed is 30, Yud, Yud, Yud is 10, 10, 10, which is also in the middle. Then you have an Aleph and a Yud, which ends up as totally the numerical count is 72, which is 6 times 12. 12 is also a very significant one, and 6 is the half of 12. So really very interesting, perhaps.
Well, when you say something like that, could it be that you could pick whatever numbers you want to pick
No,
when you
no.
look at a sentence?
I would
No,
say
no,
that the
no,
word
no.
count is probably most likely done on purpose because that
On
is
purpose.
Absolutely.
on purpose. The first letters, I'm not sure if that numerical system existed already in biblical times. So that could be, although that could perhaps be coincidental, although, so I'm not sure about that
No,
100%.
but the word count is definitely intended, definitely.
You think so?
No, the word count I
The
can
word count, but the
understand.
first letter?
It's the first letters.
Now, I've heard many lectures on the Psalms. This is intentional.
Yeah.
You find it not just in this Psalm, and other Psalms have the same.
Yeah, but what about the numerical value of the first letter?
The numerical, I'm not sure.
That exactly. So
Right.
we're on the
The
same
first letter is not-
page.
Yeah,
But the word counts, yes, that's
Oh, yeah.
that.
yeah, the word count is fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
You know,
it
it
is.
reminds me of the human body.
Yeah,
If you look at the human body, down the middle, you go to the left and you go to the right, it's symmetrical. You
Yeah.
know, your leg, it's a mirror image of the center, you know. This is substantial in the universe.
Yeah, and so
Things are symmetrical.
symmetrical, so being symmetry is in our mind a sign of beauty, right? If you have an asymmetrical face, you're not perceived as people as handsome. If your face is symmetrical, there's different kinds of faces, but that is how people perceive somebody pretty if they're symmetrical. So having this psalm as symmetrical is a sign of beauty, and so that is a feature of poetry. You beautify the words in this way.
yeah.
Okay, here was
Okay,
a
now I'm going to throw a wrench into the mix. The brain is asymmetrical.
yeah, but we don't see it, luckily.
Yeah, right.
So we have that's why it's hidden from us.
Oh, look at these paintings.
That's in the Metropolitan. That painting is in the Metropolitan.
This
Oh, I
one?
have to go see it.
The one you just crossed through.
Oh, this one, yeah.
That's at the Metropolitan, yeah.
Oh, this one, yes, that one I've
Yeah.
seen. Yeah,
Yeah.
that one I've seen. They're beauties.
Actually, I've been working on the Song of Songs, a video, and I'm using this one too. Yeah. So yeah, it's a essential love poetry, which is often also taken as a metaphorical level on it. Some people say, is it spiritual, and is it just a symbolism of the love between God and His people? Some people rabbis have said it's forbidden to read it in a literal way. Other people say baloney. It's just it's an erotic love poetry, and the spiritual level is put on it later.
Right.
And Rabbi Chaim Angel recently wrote we should study in both ways. Here, let's say, so what is with the Song of Songs is really a beauty. You have the woman singing about the man and to the man. The male lover is singing to the woman. Here, come back, girl of Shulam. Come back to where we can see you. Why are you looking at the girl from Shulam in the dance of the two camps?
But the two never meet.
No, it's probably, I guess so. I never thought of that.
They never meet.
Well, I'm not sure about that because she says your palate of your mouth is sweeter than apples, so she must have tasted something.
Okay.
You know, I have
Your
I'm
arm,
looking at
your right arm is behind my head.
She's looking for him and he's looking for her.
Yeah,
and
that's
somehow
true. They, it's not.
those
It's
people
not.
find each other.
I'm
Let's
looking
see.
at these paintings, and I can't help but remember as a child when they had these sort of like events, which I wouldn't know what the events were about. They would have people dressed like this dancing
Mhm.
in the synagogue, while we were around the table eating. It was magnificent, I mean it, they look like that.
Where was this? Where was this synagogue?
Coney Island.
Oh.
Coney Island,
Like a
not
freak
too
show.
far from where the subway was.
Was it called B'nai Shlomo?
I don't know, but I have such this, and they were such good dancers, you know, and they would dance with a handkerchief. And the man and the woman didn't touch each other. The handkerchief was how they, you know, coordinated, like they both held the handkerchief and they would dance around.
She's got the handkerchief in her hand.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
You must have a cold.
It was absolutely wonderful.
How beautiful are your feet in sandals, O royal princess. The curves of your thigh are like jewels, the work of the hands of a craftsman. Your navel is a round wine mixing bowl that doesn't lack mixed wine. Then, yeah, he wants to take a sip. Your belly is a heap of wheat encircled with lilies. A wheat belly nowadays would not be a compliment, but in those days it's like plenty. You know, when you have a lot of famine and starving people regularly, you want people to have some fat on the bones to be attractive.
Yeah.
Nowadays, when we have so much plenty, we and people are less healthy when they are overweight. Then skinniness becomes attractive, although they're trying to promote the opposite now, right? Your belly is even, your breasts are like two fawns, twins of a gazelle.
Simone, before you go further, I have to qualify what you just said. You said when you're overweight, you're not healthy.
Rubens,
The literature,
the Rubens women.
the literature out there says differently. There's no correlation to being overweight and being ill. There's no correlation.
All right. So I'd be very interested in that kind of literature. It sounds very controversial.
Now, if you have diabetes as a result of overweight,
Well,
that's different.
Well, yeah, okay.
But not all overweight people have diabetes.
No, but there's a stress on your joints, your knees, and there's a lot of problems.
Okay, now you're talking about obesity. Obesity is different than being overweight.
All right. Okay. Obesity. Right. Okay.
Okay.
Let's not make it into a medical class, right?
Well, not that it's a medical class, but when you say something, we listen to you.
I'm saying, let's say this, being overweight or obese, having a lot of fat on the bone is at least perceived as less desirable nowadays because of problems. And so then people perceive skinniness more as beauty. And it's always what you don't have is what you desire, basically.
Oh, for sure.
Your neck is like a tower of ivory. Your eyes are pools of Heshbon at the gate of Beit Rabim. Your nose is like a tower of Lebanon. Must be a Jewish lady, right? Looking out over Damascus. Your head crowns are like crimson wool. The flowing locks of your head are like purple. The king is held captive in the tresses. How beautiful you are and how pleasant, O loved ones in delight. Your stature is like a palm tree and your breasts are like date clusters. You can imagine it when you look at it now, right?
Oh, boy.
It took me a while to find this image. I say, let me climb that palm. I will lay hold of its branches. This is very, very almost
it's erotic.
Naughty.
Erotic.
Huh?
Erotic.
Very erotic.
Because of words, it doesn't mean that it's not pornographic.
Well, that would be a bit too far. I mean, this is like me not being, because I didn't use the word obese, you criticize me and you call this pornography.
No, I'm saying that
let's be accurate.
Without visuals.
Well, it was
you have to thank
it is seductive. It is, how do you say? Suggestive, very suggestive, right? Let your breast be like clusters of grape and the scent of your breath like apples. That goes very, well, the image helps too, right? Okay.
You have to thank Rabbi Akiva that we have it in the canon altogether.
Oh, is that so?
Oh, yes. Good for that.
They did not want to include this into the canon. But he said that all the other books are holy, but this is a Kodesh Kadashim. This is holy of holies, this book. Because it's God in Israel.
Yeah, see, that's because of this spiritual interpretation, we have it.
Yeah.
We can, yeah, we have our pornography because of Rabbi Akiva, right?
Yes, yes.
Your palate is like the best wine that goes down for my beloved, smoothly gliding over my lips and teeth. So, I mean, we're close, I would say. And then the female says, I belong to my beloved and he desires me. No kidding.
You know, there's a fascinating thought in that these guys were supposed to be warriors, you know, these kings and powerful, you know, the real killers. But yet the scent of a woman just totally breaks them down, totally gets them to be under the power of that. You know,
that's throughout the Bible.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, whether it's
like
Samson
fascinating.
or whether it's Sisera.
Right. Yeah. And then they
it's
say there's a duet. Both lovers sing, come, my beloved, let us go out into the field. Let us spend the night among the henna scrubs. You think, why would you not have a nice fluffy bed? Why would you go into the field? Well, I'll tell you something. Many years ago, I was traveling through the Sinai desert. It was a few years after it was handed over to Egypt. And I was with a professor, a German professor, who had been doing research after Bedouin dialects of the Sinai. He knew all these tribes, and so he took us along to the different oases where the people were, and he would speak, and they know him and whatever, because he speak all these different dialects, right? And we were driving around the road, and away from the road, I see a woman running and a man running after her, and then they grab each other and they dive behind the
Shrubs.
behind whatever the dune, and it looked rough, to be honest. And we said, "What is that?" And he said, "That's love." But that is love. And another thing, I once was into a Bedouin tent and we looked, and there is a big space and there's a curtain in the middle. And on one side sleep all the women and the other sleep the men. And then I put the two together. When people want to have love, they don't do that. They're not sleeping men and women. They go into the field to be alone and do the thing.
There you go.
Right. So they spend the night among the henna scrubs. So I think that probably smells nice. Let us rise early to go to the vineyards. Let us see whether the vine has budded. Now, this is also an imagery of budding and blossoming love.
Love.
Whether the blossoms have opened, if the pomegranates are in bloom, there I will give my love to you. So, all right. The mandrakes, and that is mandrake is supposedly a aphrodisiac, give off their fragrance. And over our doors is every kind of delicious fruit, both fresh and dried fruit I've stored up for you, my love. I have stuff in store for you, dear. All right. So this is, have I got some goodies for you? Yeah. So this is another very interesting piece. It's like the imagery is beautiful. Of course, there's poetry, there is parallelism, there's everything in there, but the genre is amazing, and it has inspired medieval post-biblical poets also to make love poetry. Here is an alphabetic acrostic. So this is Psalm 111, and you see a lot of them start with hallelujah, and then the first half line is start with an aleph, then a bet, a gimel. It's the whole alphabet is taken care of in this way, right? So, and again, if you count the number of words, you end up with 72, which seems to also be a magic number. Eshet Chayil is the last chapter of, almost the last chapter of the book of Proverbs, also has that. You see an image here, Aleph, Bet, Gimel. There's a song, but I will. Ashrei is almost, and is very intricate. Aleph is also the alphabet, except for the Nun is missing. But it has, you know, extol, here, first one, extol and bless, forever and ever, ending here also ever and ever, bless and praise. Great, and there's a lot of keywords that repeat itself. I would say, what is this? That's about Psalm 145. And we have by the rivers of Babylon. Maybe we'll end with it's really beautiful too, because it has a lot of, if you go deep, really, yeah, here's a video that I made.
Good picture of them.
Shall I do this? Okay, we'll play this. Yeah, let's see if we have the image. Wait 1 second. Here, this is better. Okay.
שם ישבנו גם בכינו, וזוכרנו את ציון. המרדים בתוכה, הרינו כינורותינו. כי שם שלנו שומענו דברי שיר, ותור עלינו שמחה, שירו לנו משיר ציון. איך נשיר את שיר אדוני, על אדמתך. אם אשכחך ירושלים, תשכח ימיני. תדבק לשוני לחיכי, אם לא אזכרכי, אם לא אעלה את ירושלים, מהראש שמחתי. זכור אדוני לבני אדום, את יום ירושלים. המרים נרו נרו, נעי סוד בה, את בבל השדולה, אשרי שישלם לה, את ימולם שגם אצלנו. אשרי שיוחז וניפץ את עוללייך אל הסלע.
Right.
Thank
That-
you.
That last line is hard.
Yeah, that's a very hard line. Yeah. Very intense stuff. Now, this was part of the Hallel, also powerful stuff. This is Martin Bennett. It was Martin Bennett. Martin Bennett was a Scottish, and he was involved in Celtic hyper-modern Celtic music, and he made a song called Liberation, in which he used words of the Psalms to inspire him towards and find confidence in his healing, that he would overcome his cancer. Unfortunately, he didn't. I have here his. Hold on, I have here. This might be interesting, and then we'll call it a class, and then we'll start post-biblical poetry next week. Here, this is kind of cool. I like it.
The voice of rejoicing and salvation is in the tabernacle of the righteous. The right hand of the Lord doeth valiantly. The right hand of the Lord is exalted. I shall not die, but live and declare the works of the Lord. The Lord hath chastened me sore, but he hath not given me over unto death. Open to me the gates of righteousness. I will go into them. I will go into them, and and I will praise the Lord. This is the gate of the Lord, into which the righteous shall enter. I will praise thee, for thou hast heard me, and art become my salvation. The stone which the builders refused is become the headstone of the corner. This is the Lord's doing. It is marvelous in our eyes. I will go into them. Liberation. Liberation. This is the Lord's doing. It is marvelous in our eyes.